Not bad, right?
Yeah, good.
Pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Well, with me today, author, mindset coach, and top executive, Quentin McCain. How you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You know, staying alive. We're a little hot.
Yes,
At Phoenix
indeed.
Beer Co. today, and their brewery right behind us, brewing some great stouts, which is what we're drinking today. Quentin, tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey, because you've got a very interesting resume, and we'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah. So, start from the beginning. I mean, I grew up right here, Phoenix, Arizona, and was a little rough, right, in the beginning stages. You know, grew up with a single mom, and just didn't really have that direction and kind of know what path I was taking, right? Hanging out with the wrong crowds. I was hanging out with in the streets, things like that. What got me here, though, is I actually had a couple interesting things that happened. You know, some things that kind of shifted my mindset, shifted my life. One of them being a car accident when I was about 18 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So got in a car accident, got banged up. I broke my right femur in half, chipped my right hip, broke 3 ribs on the left side. My ribs punctured my lung, right? And that was one of those eye openers that was like, you know what? You probably are set out to do something because you're still alive.
Yeah. Another chance at it.
Another chance at life.
And what'd you do with that?
Can't say it happened overnight, but you know, that was one of those things that was just kind of like, okay, noted, right? Like, I'm still here, I'm still breathing, I must be here for a reason, right? Fast track a little bit, I ended up working at the hospital that I was in as a patient.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I ended up working with burn patients actually for about 8 years, and that's what kind of shifted my mindset to want to do more of the mental aspect versus the physical aspect of things. I was helping people with burns in terms of rehabilitation, right? Learning to walk again, gait training, stretching, things like that. I worked with physical therapy. And what happened was, as I was working with some of these patients, I realized that they didn't have goals anymore, right? I'd come in and ask them, what do you want to do after this when you get out of here? What's your goals? And they'd say things like, what are you talking about? My life's over. I don't have any more goals. I'm burned, right?
And how did that make you feel in the process?
No, it
motivated?
It hurt me. No,
Yeah.
I thought it was devastating, right? Hearing that from another human being, it's like, wow, you know, they
It's
think
kinda
their
giving
life
up,
is over.
right?
It's giving
Yeah.
up, right? And at this point, I had no training, right, and mindset and all of these things that I do now. But just being a human, I'm like, no, you can do this. Let's work on it, right? This is the reason we're doing these things every day. This is why I'm coming in here. But long story short, what I started doing is I started going into their rooms when I wasn't doing physical therapy and just talking to them about goals and talking to them like a person. And just that one thing, talking to people and talking about their goals, working on the inner game, I saw huge shifts, you know, even in their rehab, right? So that is what really clicked for me. And that's pretty much started that path with, you know what, I want to work with the inner game. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, is help people with that inner game.
And be that mindset coach for people.
Exactly.
And I know, Quentin, you work with a lot of top executives, not just in the United States, but really across the globe. I know you're in Austria, you were mentioning, in Canada. Kind of, what is your day-to-day as a mindset coach, and what does that sort of industry look like?
Yeah. Well, I think like many business owners, right, it didn't happen overnight, right? It was a process, and you had to keep going. There was that persistence, right? I definitely have gone through every story in the book that I've heard from clients as well, right? Where it's like, this ain't working, right? Nobody wants to hear it, or, you know, just like, can I take it to the level that I'm thinking that I can take it to in my mind, right? So I've gone through it all, but it's sticking to it, you know? Yes, I invested in myself over and over again, right? I've gone through all the programs, gone through all the coaches, right? So I've invested in myself, and I kept going, right? But my day-to-day is I'm coaching, day to day. I'm coaching executives, athletes, CEOs,
across the
musicians,
board, a lot of different industries.
High performers, right?
And do you think, so a high performer is sort of the clientele you're targeting, and you mentioned athletes as well, which is fascinating. Do you see athletes have similar mindsets to top executives for a company, let's say like Tranual, for instance?
I think that we're similar in a lot of ways, right? We like to maybe categorize, and yes, there might be some differences. However, there's a lot of similarities, right? There's a lot of similarities with confidence, right? With productivity, right? Or even what I see with a lot of executives and business owners is like that balance between personal life and professional life, that balance with family and work, right? How do you create that balance? So it just depends on the person, but there are similarities between us all. Yep.
And do you think with the clients you're coaching, Quentin, is there kind of like a one size fits all? You give them sort of a stump speech and say, okay, this is your program, or do you customize it to that person's personality and what their daily life looks like?
Right. No, definitely customize, and I will listen to a person that says they're interested in coaching, right? And find out what are their specific needs and wants, right? What are their goals? And my mind, I've been doing this for a while now, so my mind will go boom, 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 boom. So I can customize at that point once I know what your goals are, what your needs are, and where you're trying to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have a story you can point to of a client who was really just struggling? They hired you and you turned them around. I know you do, so kind of give me your best one.
Right, which one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think one of the ones that stands out to me that's just really impactful is I was coaching a young businesswoman, and she mentioned that she struggled with anxiety, she struggled with depression. She'd been struggling with this for years, gone through therapists and medication and all these different things, and there's no knock to any of that stuff. It all has its place, right? But the point is, she was looking for something different, and within 3 sessions, she said she had the biggest breakthrough in her anxiety that she'd ever had in her life.
What was that?
That was her breakthrough. She no longer felt like she had anxiety, or at least not at the intensity that she did. She had the breakthrough that she'd been trying to get for 15 years.
And that was a result of your interaction with her.
Exactly.
So what'd you do to get her there?
So my specialty is in something called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming.
Okay.
I also specialize in hypnotherapy and something called timeline therapy that's really good for things like trauma, right?
Okay.
So all of these things are modalities that work with the subconscious mind, right? My main one that I really like to go to a lot is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which neuro, the brain, right? Linguistic, language, so that's communication with yourself, right? Self-talk and things like that, and also communication with others, what you're saying out loud, your metaphors that you use, right?
Yeah.
And then the programming is your habits, right? The easiest way to explain it is we all function through the 5 senses as humans, right? So if you have a trauma or if you have some limiting belief, you're somehow storing that in one of those 5 senses, and you're also expressing that in one of those 5 senses. For example, somebody has some kind of trauma, right? They either see a picture that comes in their head that triggers them, right? Or they hear a sound, right? And that may trigger them, right? But since we're humans and we work through the 5 senses, since you're experiencing that through one of the 5 senses, we can also shift it through one of the 5 senses. We can change the pictures in your head. We can alter a sound that, kind of triggers you to do something.
And is that something you address with your clients at onset? Is, what is that? Let me rephrase that. What sort of exploratory questions do you have at the beginning of your relationship with those that you're coaching?
Yeah. Well, like we said earlier, everything's custom. Some people already are familiar with NLP, right? And I can come at it at a different angle, right? Some people have no idea what that is, and it would sound like alien woo-woo talk, right?
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on where they're at and what their knowledge base is. But I'm more of a practical, step-by-step kind of person, and I like to take the difficult or the hard to explain, and I like to break it down into layman's terms, right? Like how we really talk, you know? So I think that it depends on the person, on how I come at it, but I think that I start from the basics and go up.
And work with them that way.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you worked in a burn unit, and that's what kind of inspired you to go on this track. Was there any other similar experiences that really empowered you to say, I really want to be a mindset coach? Or even other industries that led you back to owning Quentin McCain LLC?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that kind of brought me to this point. But yeah, definitely working in the burn and just seeing people at some of their lowest points in life, right? Being burned, I'm convinced, is the worst thing physically that can happen to you. You know, it's your largest organ. It's your skin, your largest organ. It's the most painful thing that can happen to you. So seeing people at that point and being able to help them, I know that I can help anybody, right? And it comes full circle. I mean, after I left the burn, doing what I do now, I was able to speak at the largest gathering of burn survivors in the world.
Really?
I've been able to coach some burn survivors. I've been able to be the keynote speaker for the World Burn Congress, you know? So it comes full circle, right? And being able to do that and help people that have been in situations where it's impacting not only you physically, but your mindset, your self-image, you know, if you have scarring and things like that, I think that I can help anybody.
You know, in Quentin, coming from a single parent household, there's so many young Americans who have similar experience where there's one leader in the family that's kind of guiding them, and they're also running a job, having to provide for the children, keep the house up and running. That's a challenge in a family unit in and of itself. And I know a lot of young entrepreneurs, they have those sort of origin stories talking about a single family unit and what that taught them and what their mother or father taught them to do. You know, you mentioned your mother. I know you co-authored a book with her.
Yes.
What's the title of that book, by the way?
The book's called Think on These Things.
Okay. And in Think on These Things, did you adopt a lot of what you wrote in there from teachings your mother gave you at a younger age, and what impact did that have on you?
My mother and I, we kind of got into personal development around the same time, you know.
Okay.
So it was kind of like a journey together, which is cool because not a lot of people can say they wrote a book with their mom, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So my mom and I, we have a close relationship, and it's interesting. We kind of got in there together. I was introduced to personal development in 2009. Right? And it started off me just doing it for myself, right? Like, I was open to the concepts and it just resonated with me. One of my friends gave me a CD from Jim Rohn, and I listened to it and I was like, man, like, this is good. You know, I can get with this, right?
Yeah.
I let my mom borrow the CD, and she also was like,
right
wow,
there with you.
This is good. I'm with you, right?
Okay.
So we both kind of got into the personal development. We're like, well, what else could we listen to?
Yeah.
Well, what about this book? What about this seminar that's coming up? And honestly, it just kind of turned into like a positive snowball, right? And, you know, it just went uphill from there.
Yeah, it's just a unique story doing
Yeah.
something like that
Yeah.
together. And Quentin, with your clients, you know, I've seen you do a lot of in-person speeches. You speak to a lot of young entrepreneur groups throughout the Valley. And you kind of mentioned three things that you think people should focus on. What are those three things, and tell us a little bit about why you sort of came up with that idea to say this is a sample roadmap to follow, in other words.
Right.
Which is a great roadmap, by the way.
Well, I mean, I think within what I teach and what I show clients, there's a lot. And some of it can be pretty intricate, and you have to kind of follow the steps, and it's progressive, right? But I came up with see it, speak it, feel it. Those are the three things that I'll teach, right? And I think no matter if you've been doing personal development for a while or if you're just starting out, that's something that anybody can grasp onto, right? See it is visualizing what you want. And I talk about visualizing it in detail, right? I talk about if you're wanting a new car, right? I want you to think about how the seat feels. I want you to visualize moving that seat back and adjusting it just right, right? Visualize putting the window down, the breeze hitting you, right? How does the steering wheel feel? What's the hum under the car feel like as you're driving it, right?
Yeah.
Visualizing with detail, because the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between something imagined with detail and something that's really happening, you know?
So with that see it, relating that to business, do you tell your clients, see yourself in the CEO chair, and what does that look and feel like?
Yes. If that's their goal, heck yeah.
Okay.
Yep. See yourself in that chair. And yes, you have to take the steps to get there, right? I believe that it's two-sided, right? You have to visualize, but you have to take action, right? You're not going to do it sitting on the couch eating potato chips.
No.
But yes, visualize it, right? That's the whole point of like vision boards and visualization practices, right? So definitely see it is that first one. Speak it is words have power, you know? Speaking what you want into existence. I highly believe in that, right? And you can see it. Just think about anyone who you've ever met that tends to be negative, right? They say negative things and negative things seem to happen, right? People are like, you know, I don't know, I just have bad luck, you know? But pay attention to their language and you start seeing some connections there. You know, they're talking about, oh man, another day where I'm getting ran over or whatever, right?
Feeling sorry for themselves.
Speaking negatively, negative metaphors, right, about their life or what's happening, their family, nothing ever goes right. It definitely makes a difference, right? Speaking what you want into existence, speaking positively in your life.
And kind of making those things come to fruition, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I know you probably educate a lot of people, they have to talk to their staff and say, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is why we're going to do it, this is how we're going to do it. Do you kind of review that with people as well to say, you know, outside of leading by example, the way you speak to your peers, this is kind of a model to follow? You have those discussions?
Oh yeah, it makes a difference. I mean, and I think that words can be habits. See, I think anything can be a habit, right? You could have a habit of speaking negatively. You could have a habit of talking down on people or talking down on yourself, right? So I think the first part of it is that awareness too. Sometimes I tell clients, I'll say, I want you to just be aware, pay attention to your language for the next few days, for the next week, you know, and notice how many things you're saying that are positive, uplifting, and towards what you want versus the things that are negative or away from what your goals are, right? And people are shocked, like, whoa, like just paying attention to my language, already that starts to shift things up.
Yeah. And what's the third one?
And the third one is feel it, physiology, right? How are you using your body? How are you being present, right? What's the energy you want to bring to any situation, any event, any meeting you go to? How do you want to show up? You know, you have to put your body in that position. You know, we can all tell, right, when somebody is down, when somebody feels depressed, someone's, you know, feeling like they have nothing to look forward to, their body language will show us, right? And the same thing when you're feeling confident, you feel good, you have that presence about you.
People notice it.
People notice it.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's almost empowering.
It is.
At a point. And I know, you know, if we were having a conversation like this 10 years ago, talking about depression and anxiety and things like that, some people might steer away from that. But, you know, we're starting to see more and more executives pay attention to the fact of wellness and the importance thereof. And how can I take care of myself and my mental health so that my staff and my employees know that, hey, I've got your back, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be steadfast and confident. You know, do you find a lot of the people you work with are struggling with some aspect of mental health?
I'm not going to say who or who doesn't struggle with mental health. I don't like to put labels on things, honestly. But I can say that we're all humans and we're all going through that human experience, right? And we all have struggles, right? So how are you going to deal with yours, right? Fast track it. Whatever you're going through right now, whether it's, you know, in relationship, in business, in anything, right? Fast track it. Are you able to sustain that for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years without addressing it? Where are you going to be? You know, and just having that image is like, wow,
it's gut-wrenching to a point, huh?
I should probably do something about that now, right?
And you kind of see your clients progress after, I'm going to say, just being aware.
Oh, yeah.
Being aware of themselves, how they think, their motivations. Because I know right now, especially young people, they put so much pressure on themselves for everything under the sun. You know, you've got this rising age of Apple iPhone applications where you can broadcast on TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram, and you are out there in the public. I mean, is that kind of a negative thing nowadays? Kind of opening yourself up to that and being like, oh, I got a bad comment on this, now I'm going to feel bad about myself. It's like, do you have those conversations with your clients of the use of social media and what they need to be prepared for?
Not necessarily, unless it comes up for them specifically, right? You know what? There's a lot of things in the world, right, that can you know, make us feel bad if we let them, right? So my thing is, instead of avoiding, I mean, you want to avoid some things, right? But instead of focusing on avoiding things, how do you build yourself up stronger so that those things don't affect you? Right? I think there's a difference. You know, you can avoid for only so long, right? Especially technology is advancing, everything's advancing. You're not going to be able to get away from it, right? But how do you build yourself up so that those things don't affect you?
That's a great way to put it. Quentin, tell us a little bit about your book. What do you talk about in it? What's going to make somebody want to buy it?
Yeah. So the book, it's interesting because, of course, that has a story too, right? So for me, when I wrote the book, at that time, I wasn't someone that wanted to sit and just read a book for an hour or 2 hours, right? I can do that now, right? Because I built up the habit. I love it, right? But at that time, I wanted to put something out there that can impact people, even from the level of they maybe haven't read a book in a while, right? Or they're just getting started in personal development. But at the same time, even those that are versed in personal development can still have benefits from the book. So the book it's a daily read. So you read 1 page a day. Simple. I like steps. I like steps, right? You read 1 page a day, and it has a message within that page that you can focus on for that one day, right? And then it has a journal with it, so you can write down goals, action steps, thoughts around that particular topic that day.
So it's almost like an interactive book as well.
It is.
Okay. So would you say your book is kind of like a workshop in and of itself?
It could be. I call it a 99-day transformation. Because
I love that.
If they say that it takes around 21 days to form a habit, right? So imagine if you're focusing on something positive each day and journaling, which also has therapeutic qualities to it, right? If you're doing that for 21 days, that creates a habit, right? Imagine doing it for 3 months.
That's sustainable. That keeps them going.
And it's simple. It's only a page, right? So it's something that people can create a habit with without really thinking about it, without really stressing about it, or taking too much time out of their day.
I love that. Quentin, question we ask everybody on the show: what does freedom mean to you?
For me, freedom is simple. Freedom is doing what you want, when you want, with who you want. That's my definition of freedom. And freedom is one of my top values. So I love being able to do what I want, when I want, with who I want.
Quentin, you know, I've seen you talk a lot, obviously, and one thing you said, I think it was a Jim Rohn quote, is what's easy to do is also easy not to do.
Exactly.
And I think that speaks volumes to our talk today about you have so many opportunities right now in the world. Take advantage of them. The economy is opening back up again. The pandemic is over. You want to start a business? Now is the time. And I'm sure that's what you're encouraging your clients to do. And I want to encourage everybody watching today to do the same. Quentin, if people want to work with you and learn more about your book, where can we find you?
You can find me on my website, QuentinMcCain.com, or all social media at Coach Q McCain.
All right, well, Coach Q, thank you for today. And for those tuning in, I'm Austin Jack with Brewing Business. Thanks for watching.